All right, everyone, we are here with a very special guest. We are joined by the lovely Robin Del Monte, aka Girlbosstown. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been one of my bucket list podcasts. I've been an OG listener.
Oh my God, what an honor.
Yes. So I'm really, really excited.
People don't usually say that about us.
No, but I feel like your guys' journey is like such a part of Barstool's story, but it's also like such a part of like who you guys are. And you've grown so much and like we've watched you grow. So it's really cool. I love it.
Thank you so much.
I remember when you guys did like the People's Choice Awards.
Yes, because you made a TikTok about us and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, we were extremely flattered.
Right. I was like, oh my God, somebody cares enough to make about a TikTok about us, and you were so complimentary of us too, which was awesome.
Big fan.
Thank you.
Big fan.
Thank you very
awesome.
much.
Well,
we're big fans of you.
Yes, I was going to say thank you for coming here and talking to us, because I think anybody that's lived a lot of life on social media now so far, like you said, we've been doing this for a while, just like even podcast wise, and I feel like you have like blown up and have now extended it really into your own brand, which is hard to do. Like it's hard to have that blow up moment and then really like make it a business.
Yes.
Which you have very successfully done now, which is very impressive.
Thank you.
So I want to give everybody some background on just like who you are and how you even started to have a presence on social media.
Yeah, so I started on social media. I've like said this before. I'm like, I was always into social media. Like, you know, in college, like you'd have to post like once a night on the weekend. Yes. Like it was like such a thing. Like it'd be like, I need my picture tonight. Yeah. But I never viewed it as like an outlet for creativity until after college, when I was kind of navigating my career and like what I wanted to do. And I would work at these advertising agencies or in these marketing positions, which is great. But like I wasn't scratching that like itch of creativity that I wanted. Like I wanted to be on E! News and I wanted to do exactly what you guys are doing, and the jobs that I was getting, because I didn't have a traditional resume, wasn't allowing me to do that. So I really utilized social media to talk about like pop culture and be creative, but it definitely was not paying the bills at all. I'd get like 15 views, but I think that like builds character and it shows that like I was passionate about this type of stuff before people cared, because I cared. But essentially after COVID, I, like a lot of people, was like, what is the world? What am I doing? What do I look like? Who am I? And I was sleeping on my friend's couch, and I quit my corporate job. Even when I didn't have an apartment, I was like, okay, if I have to work for the rest of my life, I'm going to go to esthetician school so I can get like free facials and get my lips done and like call it a day. So I started waitressing in Boston to save money to go to esthetician school, and I had like more time during the day. So I really started focusing on posting on TikTok. And that was around like a year and a half ago. And like I said, I've been posting on social media for so long and nothing really hit. And then when I started talking about PR moves, social strategy, creative direction for brands, celebrities, and even myself, it started doing really well, which was shocking to me, because I didn't think that side of things would be interesting to people. Right. When you ask kids now, what do you want to do? Like, they're like, I want to be an influencer. They're not like, I want to go into marketing. So I was like shocked that there was an audience for that. But then I started to see that that audience could be used as a currency in a non-traditional way to create a platform to work with brands. So yeah, I started the celebrities and brands that I was talking about on social media for the PR moves I think they should do. They started reaching out to me being like, okay, let's do it. And I was like, okay, I'm on my couch in Medford, Massachusetts. Like, I'm not quite sure how to do that yet, but I'm going to figure it out. And so I got like my team together, and I've been doing it full time for around a year and a half, and my entire life has changed. Like I literally was rolling silverware like a year and a half ago, and like now I'm here. But I feel like if my story can do anything, it can show people that like you don't necessarily have to have a traditional resume to get into the rooms that you want to be in, which I think like you guys in Barstool do, like talks about a lot and does really well. Because like growing up, you know, like you would be like, or for me, I'd be like, I want to do like E! News red carpet. They'd be like, we'll go to community college. And I'd be like, okay, well, like, I think there's a disconnect because I said I wanted to do E! News.
Yeah. And you also think, like, how do I even get there?
Yeah.
Right? Like, when you're watching that as a kid, you don't even know how you can get into that position. No. You kind of just have to find yourself there. Yeah. And I think what you've done is incredible and a really good idea. And I think that there is a place for everybody and everything. And I think TikTok has shown that, like, there's a spot and a market for any kind of idea that somebody may have. And like, you've had this great idea and you've given people great ideas. Do you now, like, because you're, you know, when you start off, you're so honest, right? You're like picking everything apart, negative, positive, whatever it is. Has things changed now?
I catch myself being, I don't think I would say it's changed, but I catch myself being more aware of my actions. Like, I feel like Kennedy Urich talks about this on social media a lot. Like, you know, when you're first starting on social media or like popping off, like I would say anything, do anything. And I wouldn't say that like my opinions have changed. I just try to also, the way in which I approach it, I'm very careful about, because I've seen how other people's words have affected me on the internet.
Right.
And so I see the other side of things. And I also see the industry for what it is. So instead of being like, why the did this person do this? Like, this is so stupid. I'm like, well, like, they had a team and they had a lawyer and they had a business manager and it took 6 months to approve. Like, I get the process more. But like, when it comes to talking about celebrities and pop culture, I do like hold my tongue a little bit, because sometimes I've met celebrities that I've like looked up to and they're like, oh my God, I've been following you on like my Finsta forever. And I'm like, oh, like, you don't think that people are seeing these things, but they fully are. So yeah, it's definitely like affected the way I look at things, but I try not to.
But I don't think that's a bad thing either, because I think, like you said, and I think it's something we've realized too, like over the years when you're first starting out, and even like when we first started, we were a lot younger. Like, I was 19, and like, you're going to say anything and whatever. And then you, like you said, you realize what people say about you. And then
you're on the other side of it.
And when you're on the other side of it. And then also, like you said, you get to know more about the inner workings of like the business and the industry. And you're like, okay, not everything comes down to this one person. They have a team and there's so much more that goes into it. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to be cautious. Especially when it comes to like your livelihood.
Definitely. But it's also interesting to like see the other side of things and be like, oh, like, I feel like everything is connected, and that's like what people don't see or understand. You're like, oh, this person's on this person's podcast because like they have the same publicist, but like nobody would think that they would know each other. It's just like when you see the curtain lifted on the industry a little bit, I feel like that's been the part that's been like, whoa, because I've looked up, not in a bad way at all, but I've like looked up to this industry forever, and to see how it actually works is like really interesting. And I think that like, I hope they start to show a little bit more of that, because I think it's interesting.
How has that affected like how you've curated your team of people? Because obviously, you know, you are out there and doing things, and I'm sure you have all those people lined up for you yourself now.
Well, for like, as of right now, when it comes to like my consulting business, like it is just me like doing the work, and I'm looking to expand, and like what that would look like and what that would feel like. That's like currently like what I'm thinking about when it comes to like my agents, PR, and like business manager, lawyer. It's just absolutely insane that I have those things, because never in a million years would I think to have that. But I think to have longevity in the industry, you need to be smart. Obviously, that sounds like whatever. But like, I like to have people in my corner who are educated about things that I'm not super educated on, so that things don't go south. And I feel like having like a good like lawyer, which is like not talked about a lot, or like a business manager is so important, because a lot of the times, like, I'm 29 years old, and when this all started happening to me, it was so completely overwhelming in a great, amazing, privileged way. But I was also like, how are 16-year-olds knowing what to do, like taxes, like all of that, like everything that comes with it? I'm like, how are people knowing how to do these things with this many people? It's just so I have a team, but not in like a entourage-y way, you know what I mean? But I have people in my corner to help me in the areas that like I'm not as competent in.
Because I that's why I find it all like so fascinating too, because it's just like a side that I just don't fully see the inner workings of, and I'm just like, wow, it's just so much more goes into doing all of this.
And I think when it comes to, especially, you know, people who blow up on TikTok, there's something about having to do it every single day, right? Like it's a job that, you know, because people will be like, oh, TikTok, it's fun, like it's not really a job, but it is a job, because you have to wake up every single day and put your all into this. What's your day-to-day like, and how can you navigate, like, if there's a day where you're just like, man, I don't really feel like doing this right now?
So burnout is definitely real. And I always say that, like, for me to complain about being able to do what I love for a living just feels wrong to me. But I have to like also validate my feelings and say sometimes like this is a lot and like I need a break. I travel a lot for my job too, which I think makes it especially as hard because I like stability and routine, and nothing about this has stability or routine. But in like an average day, if I had to say, and I wake up and I'm like, I'm not feeling this, I'll focus my efforts on like the consulting side of things where like I can actually be creative, but for others and maybe not myself, because it's like when you're really good at like singing and people are like, oh my God, you're so good at singing. And you're like, yeah, I love to do it. And then they're like, okay, now sing. It's like, for me to have pressure for me to be creative all the time, I feel like that is just like a recipe for disaster, especially when it's like for myself, for my image, for my TikTok. But when I'm able to like step back behind the camera and like actually just get inspiration and execute and like work with brands and hear their stories, that's what allows me to like keep going without having as much burnout, because I always knew I needed to have a backup and I needed to have longevity in the industry. And if I was just building a career off of other people's validation of me and like likes, I would crumble. Because how can that not get to you without stress or like imposter syndrome? So I feel like I like to lean towards the things that aren't necessarily on camera or based on other people's validation when I get into those spots, but it's definitely difficult.
And now you obviously post your creative side, your business ideas, PR ideas, those things. But you also, how do you balance sharing more of like the private stuff? Because that can be hard too. Like it's all fun and games when you're like not talking about yourself. And then when you start talking about yourself, you're like, wait, why am I doing
Which
this?
people always end up interested in no matter what you're talking about, right? Like, because we cover pop culture, celebrity, news. And then, but when whoever they're watching, they want to know more. Even I think when we grew up and watched the E-News hosts, we're like, what's going on with their relationships? Like you just become interested in the people that you watch.
Yeah, and it's a lot of it's because like I feel like a lot of the time kids or teens or people are spending more time with people like online, like watching you guys or being on TikTok than they do with their friends in real life. And like that builds such trust and community. So how can you not want to like know what's going on in their life? My like childhood and upbringing and some of the things that I've gone through are like super obviously personal to me, and when I find the right outlet to share, I like to do so. But for the most part, I feel like I keep a lot of that private just because of a lot of my story has other people involved, and it's like not my story to tell for those people. So when it comes to those types of things that are super private, which is obviously all people want to know, like people are always asking me about like my family and my personal life, when I've like I like don't bring it up like that, because the one thing you're not talking about, people are like, okay, this must be juicy. But for example, for things like I talk about how I lost my mom when I was 20 and the grief camp that I volunteer at, that's super personal, but I also have such pride in sharing those things because like I know those are the types of things that I needed to hear. So I feel like when it comes to sharing my personal life, I like to share the things that I feel like I needed to hear or do need to hear. And some things I think will just stay private. And I'm not dating or seeing anybody, but I'll cross that path when I get there, if I ever get there. But,
Do you have to like, are there days when you're like, I just cannot open this app?
Yes.
Like I just.
Yeah, I feel like, but that's in my own head too. Yeah. Like I feel like I'll see one negative comment. Like I get a lot of comments about like my weight, and I'm literally talking about marketing. Right. So it's like, where's the disconnect? So when even if it's a couple comments, like I will hyper focus on that, and I'll get in my own way, even though it's by like sometimes actions of others. So when that happens, I'm like, I just can't do this. Or sometimes I'll be like, I just can't be creative today. Like I want to like lay in bed and watch like old seasons of Southern Charm and like sit with my dog. But I feel like that's what makes you creative in the end, is like you have to like take breaks from it too. And sometimes like when you're going through something and you realize like, I put so much time and effort into my career on social media, and like I'm putting my whole self out there, but there's also so many other things in the world that like have value and matter and make me happy, that like I need to prioritize doing those things as well, not just like social media.
It's hard. It's it's a delicate balance.
I saw something that like helped me a little bit, where it was like, I'm not saying it's two different lives because your life is combined into one, but it's kind of like, you have to think of like your brain and then like the anxiety and everything that like all of that can cause. You have to look at it, like picture your brain and then picture that on the outside of it.
Yes.
That like I saw that and it really helped me, because now if I do get like that, I'm like, oh, this isn't me. Like it's not taking up all of me. It's just something on the outside. And like if you actually, I don't know if that's making sense, but if you like actually visualize it outside, separate from your brain, then you could see it as a much smaller thing than like something that completely takes over you.
Yeah, I've seen things similar. Like therapists have said, like actually like pull the negative thoughts.
Yeah, like
makes
see
you,
it
like,
over there. Where But
it's also, I feel like it's difficult because sometimes the things that you don't want to see on the internet are how you negatively feel about yourself. So it's like when you see things that it's not just like hate comments, you're like, but I like kind of agree with it.
Right.
In like a negative way. It's like validation of like negative thoughts about yourself. And people are like, don't read the comments, don't read the comments. I'm like, that would be like if you were sitting in front of a whiteboard with like a bunch of things about you and they're like, just don't look. It's like, yeah, but it's in front of my face. Right. But I mean, I'm so much more than those comments, and also my career is so much more than those comments. So like you said, it's like to put it in a corner, but I feel like it's definitely heavy.
Yeah. And sometimes they're really good at finding the stuff that you're most insecure about that you don't even think anybody would know. And you're like, how did you know that's the thing I'm thinking about right now? And it could be like the smallest thing.
Yeah. And that's why sometimes I'm like, when I'm letting things get to me too much, I'm like, well, that's also me like projecting, in the sense of like I'm feeling so negatively about myself that I'm like letting that, I'm agreeing with that, or like letting that get to my head. So as much as like I wish I could like sit down and have a conversation with like Reddit, like I can't. So I have to sit down and have a conversation with myself and be like, why is this affecting me? Like what is going on here?
Right. You mentioned like, you know, getting an inside look inside the industry and like really peeling the curtains back. And I'm sure with this job and everything that's come to you in the past year and a half, you've also met a lot of new people, made new friends. What has that been like for you? And is there like, do you separate, you know, friends you have made through like work versus like, you know, the friends you've had?
Yeah.
And
I feel like it's like an office, like no pun on words, but like I feel like it's exactly like an office. Like, I am best friends with my best friends from first grade still, and they're like my family, and I have a group of guy friends from home too, that are like literally family to me. And I feel like when I'm around them, I'm like, okay, like this is when I'm like fully myself. But navigating the industry and finding friends in the industry, for the most part, I feel like it's like an office where it's like, okay, like we all come in here every day, we all leave here every day, we all have lunch at the same time, and there's some people that you like totally vibe with and have like inside jokes with, but like don't necessarily like hang out outside of work, but you like are with them every day and like love them and respect them. And then there's some people where you're like, I feel like they just like don't like me, like, they're like avoiding me, but like did I do anything? And then you have like work crushes, like it's literally like an office. But there are some people that I feel like have made it into like my like actual heart and like who I am, and who I'm good, like Jake Shane, who I know
he's the best.
Yeah.
By the way, I went like this for work. I didn't mean that like we do the same thing. I did air quotes, but I mean because it could be fun too.
Oh yeah, no, of
like,
course. But like also,
I was like, I don't know why I went like this. Like
you're loving the air quotes today.
I don't know. I did it. I've been
all
doing
recording
like all
this
day.
morning.
I'm sorry.
I can bite you in the ass.
Sorry. I didn't mean that, because like we literally do a podcast.
Yes.
I mean, I say that all the time. I'm like, my job.
And then that could go in so many different ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there are some people going back that I like love and trust, and like
he is the best.
Yeah.
Like he came in the office, I guess that was like a couple months ago now. Yeah. But we were like, you're just the
sweetest. I like found him like before he had followers randomly. And then this whole thing unfolded, and we went to Cannes for like this business opportunity. And like, you know, when you like travel abroad with somebody and like you get to know them like so well, and like funny shit happens, it just like bonds you for life. And I love him. But also like I feel like in college, in high school, I was super outgoing and like loved to party and stuff like that. But then when I find myself on influencer trips, I find myself getting like so closed off and like to myself, and like not as outgoing as I feel like people might think. But then you put pressure on yourself, and I'm like, wait, why am I the weird one in the fucking corner? Like I like should go talk to people, but then it's like it's just awkward because everybody's in their own world. But then if you like take all of that aside and take your insecurities out of the picture, like you end up having a blast, and like the people are great. I've never been on like a bad experience at all.
You just did the Fiji Love Island one. That looked awesome.
Yes. Oh my God, that was literally insane. And with like, you know, like obviously with Brianna Chicken Fry and Zach, like he was holding the Fiji bag.
Yeah.
And that's how like people like found out. I have that bag and I was like, oh my God, like I have the green Fiji bag. Like we were like I know where that's from. I was like, I know that green Fiji bag. But it was incredible. And I never even went on vacations growing up. Like this is the first time I've left the country this year. Like to Europe and things like that. So to be able to go to Fiji and to go to the Love Island house and be with Mara, like I literally like peed, like I peed down my leg. Like I was like so excited. I was like, this is so crazy. And it's just like such a blessing. I feel like sometimes, like we were saying, we get caught up in this world and then like I look around in Fiji and I'm like, okay, like even if all of this is like takes a toll and is a lot of pressure, like this is genuinely changing my life and giving me opportunities I would have never had.
Was that trip like one of the bigger moments for you? Just because I feel like I see, honestly, it's so aspirational because I see like I'm like she does everything so well. Like the trips you're on make sense. What you're doing makes sense. I'm like, she's doing all this really cool shit, and I'm like, it's just very impressive. So like, is that what have been like the biggest things that you felt like you've manifested through your account?
Yeah, I think like I said, like I told my high school guidance counselor I wanted to do e-news, and she was like, you should check out these community colleges, which is great. And I probably should have, because like I don't know if I was actually ready for university. And I think community college is like such a great option.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, but like I want to be in LA and like do e-news. And I booked e-news The Rundown. That was the first job I ever booked on social media. So like being able to go to e-news and do it, I was like, this is like seriously insane, and I manifested it.
Yeah.
And Fiji, Love Island. I started Love Island the first day of COVID, and I had like just lost my job, and I didn't know where the world was going. It was just like the craziest situation as we all went through, and like Love Island was like literally what just like I had to watch every night. So to go from that, not having a job, like not knowing what's next in my life, to like being at the house like with my favorite character, like in a location where I never even thought I would be able to like fully leave the country to ever go, was like massive for me, for sure.
It's the coolest thing. I mean,
so cool.
It is. Did you finish this season of Love Island UK?
Yes.
What did you think?
Well, here's the thing, like
because now I think Hulu's done, right? Like is Hulu like the finale's aired on Hulu?
I watched the VPN,
so do I.
Yeah, so
do I.
I don't know if any of you Hulu users are watching it.
No, literally, so do I. So like, I was getting people DMing me being like, talk about it on this Friday, like on the episode. I was like, guys, I literally can't because I get yelled at by the people who watch it on Hulu. I spoil it, but now I think everybody's seen the end. So now you've.
And I know what happened, even though I didn't finish.
I was going to say, Rhea didn't finish the season, but she knows what happens, which means she won't finish.
I'm not going to finish it because I know what happened.
Well, I always think the last week of Love Island, like after the parents, is like kind of boring.
Yeah, totally.
Like I like it, like I like pre-Casa, like a week post
up until like episode 40.
But when they stop bringing people in, I'm like, okay, like what's gonna happen? Like,
then they just lay around and they're waiting for the end.
And they didn't even do the babies. But like
they didn't. I honestly, hand up, I was happy they didn't do the babies. I hate that episode.
Yeah.
Really?
I always
because of the crime.
I always skip that episode.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't do it. But Jess and Sammy, it's like so fucked up because like I like him. Like I like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, clearly a lot of people felt that way.
I know, but I'm like, no, like this is like not good. But
only from what I've seen of him, I didn't like him, but I also didn't finish the season,
I'm
so I don't know.
I'm just so stuck on the initial comments of him saying he wasn't attracted to her.
I know.
Like that to me, I don't
see, this is me projecting my insecurities.
No, like, I'm like,
that's why I'm
right. I'm just like, I don't know how in my brain I could convince myself that this guy liked me if I knew he was telling other people he wasn't attracted
cute
to me.
music, and I'm like,
no. Towards the end, I was like, I
He's
believe
just trying
he
to
really.
win.
I know.
I was like, I believe he really has
never
feelings, but in the moment,
would you go on a dating show?
No. Because I can't date without cameras, so like I just don't think that would be good, especially for like my self-esteem.
Yeah. Were you rooting for somebody else to win, or were you?
No, this season was the first season because honestly, like I did not like Zach and Molly. I did not like Zach and Molly. I think they should have brought Molly back in the girls' Casa house, so Zach could have misbehaved. All the boys could have misbehaved because they knew that Molly was in there and going to go back and say everything. It was just like, and I talked to the showrunners in Fiji, and I told them this. I was like, I have a bone to pick with you guys.
I got some ideas for you guys.
Yeah, I was like, hello. But Leah DMs me.
Oh really?
You know, like Leah.
Yeah.
She's been like DMing me, and I'm like, oh my god, so cool.
But it's like it's always the most normal people who do. Like she got that. Everyone said she was so boring, and I feel like it's just because she was probably
just normal. But also, like, I feel like this season was really, really good. But like, it's not season 5 or season 3 because like there weren't couples I was rooting for. I mean, like I liked Tyreek and Ella, but
no
like,
one was really likable. Is the thing. Like it was good drama, and you were following along, but I didn't feel like any of them that I was like really rooting for.
And that's what makes Love Island different from like The Bachelorette or like other shows, in my opinion, because I feel like even though there's so much drama and craziness, like real love like happens out of it. And I like don't necessarily think that about like The Bachelor, Bachelorette.
Yeah.
And that was like missing. So I was like, okay, like I'm not.
And even when they did say it, I was like, I don't believe you.
I also think like there's something about when you like become attached to these couples and you love them, but then they screw up, and then that's what makes it good. Like season 5, when you were like became attached to these couples, and then you were like, oh, they're just gonna fuck each other over.
Yeah.
But then you're still watching it, and then season
5 was the best.
So good.
And then season 3 with Kem.
I know.
Yeah.
I did. I
Chris
liked
and Kem.
season 3.
Chris and Kem.
I liked season 3 a lot. What was I gonna say? And it's also always funny because I do love to, because I know you're also watching with the VPN. Like I'll go and read UK Twitter of like what everybody's saying. It's like the funniest shit ever. These people, like the tweets are so funny. The memes are the half the part. Like they're so funny, and seeing everybody after seeing Twitter after they won was so funny because they were like, who were these people voting from? And I was crying. They were like posting screenshots of Facebook groups of like,
but think about
clearly
season
older
5.
women being like, we love them.
Amber won season 5.
Yeah.
With the Irishman who came in like a week and a half before.
I know. Well, I mean, Katie has not shut up on podcasts for like the last 2 weeks. I know. Katie has not she's been on 9 million podcasts. It's all over my TikTok. I just see all her interviews, and she was like, well, she was like, I think Whitney is gonna win because it's like she compared it to Amber from season 5. She was like, well, just
you're
like
rooting.
It'll be whoever Whitney picks. Like Whitney will just win with whatever guy she's with.
Yeah.
And that still didn't happen, even though I feel like a lot of people were
well, it's like the Chuck
and
and Blair effect. Like I wrote like my senior thesis on like how, even though I love Gossip Girl so much and I love Chuck and Blair, but I was like, Chuck and Blair's relationship like romanticizes like toxicity to young teen girls.
Right.
And like it's setting up this next generation to like value things in a partner that like are the complete opposite, which was like I had to make this sound like all smart and like my senior thesis, you know what I mean? But I just wanted to watch Gossip Girl. But it's true. Like
it is so
you're
true.
rooting for Chuck and Blair, even though like they're horrible to each other.
It's the same thing with Sex and the City.
Yeah,
with Carrie and Big. You're like, they're awful for each other.
Yeah.
Like rewatching it, I've been rewatching. I'm like, why were we ever rooting for these two to be together? They suck as a couple.
Yeah.
They are not meant to be together.
I think it's like because people value like the journey rather than like the in the now.
I know. It's funny too, especially with so many teen shows. You do find that when there are like teams of like people, that everyone always loves the one that's a little bit more like secretive and toxic.
Which is why I think I'm single. Yeah. I'm single, by the way, if anybody's watching this. Bad voice. And like I got back into reading because of like these like teen like smut
it's my favorite
books. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm reading right now Meet Me at the Lake, which was like
I just read that one.
Yes, and like Every Summer After.
Yep.
Every Summer After.
I loved Every Summer After.
That needs to be turned into
Meet Me at the Lake I didn't like as much as
okay,
I'm
like
Every Summer
not
After.
as far in, but like that needs to be turned into something. I love
they
it.
will. That's like I think all of Emily Henry's books are getting made into movies or TV shows or something.
Book that like you would want to cast and see right now?
I mean, we've been doing it with Seven Husbands, as everyone loves to do, right?
Yes.
And that's
but
like
I can't figure
that's
it
the
out.
hottest one on TikTok too. I think.
I know I'm so lame. Like I like will read a book and then I'll look up like blah 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 fan edit like casting
I know.
to like see like who people are.
I've
casting.
been Googling nonstop like who do people want as Evelyn Hugo, and I just can't pinpoint somebody who I think would be like perfect.
I think that's why they kind of shot themselves in the foot too with It Ends With Us, because that movie was cast on TikTok for years and everybody like fell in love with the TikTok castings, and when they came out and said who the actual cast was, everyone was like boo, boo.
If there was a TikTok casting of like your show, who would it be?
Of
celebrities.
Our show?
Oh, like
celebrities to play you guys. Like if there was like a documentary.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
We actually joke about this because we think about if there was like a
us?
TV show that was made like Barstool, like who would play the Barstool people. And I don't know.
I don't know. It's hard to like say it for yourself. You know what I mean?
I feel like I'm in a weird, like, I don't know what age group.
I know,
we
sometimes
fall.
I like say like
am I like an older?
Like,
am I young?
30.
Yeah, right. Like we're the same age, so I'm
it
like,
would
am
be like
I
older to play younger? Not too old, but like around the same
But am I
age.
like, I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
I go with like a Disney or like Nickelodeon star to bring them back as like, I'd pick like myself as like Victoria Justice or like Vanessa Hudgens.
All right, that's
somebody
good.
in that world.
I feel like you would be. I'm trying to think. I feel like I can like definitely think of like for both of you guys. But sometimes like it's insulting when somebody's like, "Oh my god, you know who you look like?" and you're like, "Who?"
Oh, but if you have somebody
She
in your
gets
brain,
everybody
I get, like,
in the world though.
every
It's
single,
so many
like,
different people.
So many different people. All the time, like I
She
couldn't
gets
even
Dua Lipa.
like
she
I couldn't
gets
even
Margot
like
Robbie.
like
She gets like a
and
ton.
it's like insane
she
people.
gets the whole Barbie movie.
Yeah, yes.
Or like when I would get Kristen Stewart. Like it's like such a mixture of different people that don't even look alike.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this, comment.
Yeah, I would
Who
love.
you guys
I would
think?
love to know too.
That's actually a
'Cause I
really
think-
good TikTok
I think-
idea that Barstool should make of like going around the office and asking like
Dave's done it a million times, talking about
Really?
himself. Well, because he's
Oh,
just
I'm
he
saying,
wants
like,
Bradley.
cast everybody.
Yeah, he just has himself cast. Bradley Cooper plays Dave.
cool.
Do you have somebody in your head that you'd want to play you?
just like selfishly, like I think if it was like a younger version of me, I like Sabrina Carpenter. But then like me now, I would want to do like I don't know, like I always loved like Kate Hudson in like Almost Famous, like you know, like that age of Kate Hudson, or like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Kate Hudson. But I feel like I have like a deeper voice and like I'm not as girly.
It's hard to pick yourself because we're always so judgmental on castings when it comes to
and
like
I wasn't saying that because
outer stuff.
And
like
it's
but
not
when
because
you're
of looks. I'm thinking
I
about
know.
like who could like
well, that's
play
what I'm
that.
saying. When you think about yourself and not other people, like I'll cast this, but when you're thinking about yourself, you think so much more about your own personality, and you're like, how do I match my personality to somebody? Like you're like, oh, that's not how really they do it. That's it's not really how it works.
Yeah, it's the best when people are like, I feel like I'm like Margot Robbie. Like everybody says that. I'm like, but are you like Margot Robbie?
Right.
Like
it's
you just can't pick Margot Robbie for yourself.
Yeah.
Like otherwise people are like
That's like the go-to that people say too, and you're like
in a dream world. Yeah.
Absolutely.
everything.
Okay, I did have one more question. It was kind of like what we were just talking about. So you like genius TikTok ideas. Like you always have the best where I'm like, why don't these companies listen to everything that she's saying? What has been like one of the bigger brands that has come to you like, wow, that's actually a really good idea?
I have one at the top of my head and I can't say it because it's like in the
works? Okay.
but like it's like oh my god. But I will say I liked L'Oreal like the makeup brand. It's not like they saw one of my ideas was like, oh my god, this is brilliant, I'm gonna do it. But they utilize the fact that I do PR predictions and I always say, oh, like this person should be the next face of this, and like they tapped into that and did like a non-traditional brand deal to allow me to like do what I already do, but like organically pull in the brand, which I like when brands do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like getting recognition from brands, any brands, I think is massive because all I ever wanted to do was like to be in the space, and I couldn't get entry-level marketing position in Boston. So some of these brands that like turned me down and didn't read my 500 LinkedIn resumes now recognizing me and like wanting me to be a part of the conversation, like that's the biggest thing for me.
Because it really is like every time I see one of your videos where like this, I think this celebrity like should work with this brand. I'm like, genius. They really should work with that brand.
Yeah, you know what? I think that too.
Yes, every time.
No, but I also do think that like it's way easier said than done. You know what I mean? At first I was like, oh my God, like this needs to happen. And then you like see how much goes into it. But I think we are leaning towards a world in which they're using creators as creatives in this process to allow them to like show a brand more in detail, how to like engage with an audience, how to build trust, how to make that trust get people to buy things off of the app. Like there's so much things that influencers and creators do every single day that could be utilized in the business world from a consulting standpoint that you might not even recognize. So for me to even be in these rooms and have these conversations, I feel like the industry is going in a really cool way. So I'm excited.
Can I put you on the spot?
You just make me want to put on a blazer.
I know, right?
Like I'm just like,
But like if you guys like in my real life, like I literally like I'm such a slob, like which is.
But I'm like, I want to feel official right now. I feel.
What do you think is a brand that we should work with? I said I'm gonna put you on. The
Well,
spot.
like I mean, you could go the basic way because like you guys are both getting married. So you could definitely tap into something like that. But let me try to get like a little bit more creative because that one's like right off the head.
Yes.
I feel like also like this could be, I'm not sure like how you guys could do this, but like a CB2 or like a furniture company, I think is like such a great way to be advertised on a podcast because you guys have such a great setup. But you could like, they could bring in and out like the different furnitures and the different models and fully change what the things look like. And then you guys could be a part of the process. So like 1 week you could be like, I'm going to design the set like how I would want my future living room to look. And you could be like, okay, this is like your vibes, and people could shop those different types of collections.
That would be so fun.
And then they could do
It
like
would be fun.
like a college, like for college, like budget friendly. You know what I mean?
Put us in bunk beds.
Yeah, in this room.
That would be
this
so
room.
cute. Yeah, and bunk beds in this room.
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah, that'd be fun.
I would
That
do a
is a good
podcast.
idea.
I would do a podcast with you from the top.
You should go
bunk.
talk to the sales team upstairs.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like
could use
people
you.
watch so many clips. Like if you think about how many views your guys' clips get on TikTok of like you sitting in these types of chairs. It's like that is the greatest advertisement of all time. And then also you could be like have one of your guys' fans help decorate it 1 week and like show that process and vlog it and have that be an ad campaign.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's great. You're just full of good ideas.
I gotta re-download TikTok.
Yeah. She took over. She's been
I
on
deleted
a
it like
she's been
2
on a
months
TikTok
ago.
mental break.
Or like a month and a half. Yeah.
But that's necessary.
Oh yeah, I feel great.
But if any
like
of my
now-
followers are thinking about doing that, don't.
No,
Because,
no.
like keep the views going.
I know.
watching,
I gotta
keep-
re-download it because like I'm just missing out on things now that like I'm now becoming the person that when somebody brings something up to me, I'm like, what? Meanwhile, I was the person who was always bringing up TikTok to people, which is why I had to delete it because I was spending too much time on
Coming
there.
full circle.
Yeah. Exactly.
Just gotta manage. Come back.
I need to
come
put
back
like
slowly.
like a time limit on there.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a
yeah.
child.
A child
Because
lock. Parent
I
lock.
do.
But you
because-
need to do like a big hard launch of like your first one back.
I know. Well, I don't even have the app. I'm saying like I
You're
gotta
right,
like
right. Yeah.
it'll come.
Well, you'll think about it.
Yeah, it'll come.
All right.
It actually is going to be this clip.
yeah, you've inspired me. I'm like, I want to throw on a blazer and get on TikTok.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so
coming.
much.
This is awesome. And you guys should give yourself more credit than air quotes because you guys have made
we're
a
bad
massive
with
business
that.
yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what you don't have to wear a blazer to be powerful.
But sometimes it feels good to
Yeah.
put on that blazer. Where can everybody follow you, watch you, make sure they know everything you got coming up?
Yep. So it's at Girlbosstown, GIRLBOSSTOWN.
Where did the name come from?
I always joke about this. So like I'm like the marketing and branding queen, and like nobody even gets the name. I like live in Boston, so it's like Girlbosstown. And like nobody knows that or understands that, so it's like a pun in itself that like I talk about like what brands you're doing and like people don't even know the name of the brand. But yeah, on Instagram and TikTok.
Amazing.
There you go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for
And
having
you were
me.
very awesome as well, and you should be very proud of yourself.
We're proud.
Yeah.
We're proud.